Okay, welcome to this week's edition of Papercrafting with Tracey. I'm going to be featuring a couple different things in this week's project. This one here, this card, is a fold-out card. And with this one we are going to be using the Serene Garden stamp set. Okay, and it has coordinating framelits as well. There's so many possibilities with this stamp set. Okay, and then for this project, I found something like this on Pinterest, and I'm using the Night of Navy cardstock as well as the designer series paper Twinkle Twinkle for that one. Okay, so I think we'll start with this card for today. I would ask that you please share this video and my site with everybody so that it can build my my business. You can also find all my videos on Papercrafting with Tracey on Facebook, or sorry, not only Facebook, but Instagram, and the videos are on YouTube as well. Okay, so for this one, we need a piece of Night of Navy that is 4 by 9 3/4. Okay, so actually I'll turn it this way so it's easier to see. And what I've done is on the short side, I've scored at the 1.5 mark from the 3-inch mark to the 7.5 inch. And then on this long side, I've scored from the top down to the cut at the 3-inch mark. At the halfway mark, which is 5 1/4, I've scored all the way through. And on the 7.5 inch, I've scored from the cut all the way down. Okay, so these lines and these lines are scored, and at the 1.5 inch, I've cut from the 3 to the 7.5, and this is what you end up with. Okay, and then as you fold in the half, just to get some, and then fold it like so, and that's how you end up with that shape. So now we're going to make all the insides. Okay, so what we need is a white that is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I've also got Whisper White of 3 7/8 by 2 7/8, a 3 7/8 by 2 1/8. I've got 2 1 3/8 by 2 1/8, and then I chose to do on the inside some designer paper. So these are 2 1/8 by 2 1/4. Okay, so that's those. So we're going to start with stamping. So I'll just put some of these aside. My main ones there. And I'm with the Serene Garden. We're going to start with this page here. So that'll be our big sheet. Okay. And I'm using the soft seafoam because that's what coordinates with the designer paper that I'm using. Okay, so I'm just going to ink this up. There we go. And we're just going to line it all up here. Okay, I want it fairly close to the edge. Nice even pressure. There we go. And now I'm going to take the coordinating die that goes with that, this one here, and it's actually going to cut out those leaves. Okay, so I'll go run that through the Big Shot. There we go. And now I'm also going to take a piece of the soft sea foam, and I'm going to use this die, and I'm going to run it through, okay, because I'm going to create a back for that. Okay, there we go. Now before I put that together, I'm going to finish my stamping so that I can put my ink pad away. So for this one, I'm going to use this little corner. And I would like one up in this corner. And down in this corner. There we go. And then I used, because the Serene Garden doesn't come with any sentiments, I used the balloon celebration, and I'm going to use the happy birthday for this one. So I'll just ink that up. And I wanted that right in the center. Oops. That's why we have two sides. Oops. There we go. So just remember, paper always has two sides. There we go. Okay, so that piece is done. For this one here, I still need to add my butterfly. And I'm finished with the soft sea foam. So I'll just close that. So that I don't get ink everywhere. And I'm using Sahara sand. Okay, but I'm going to off stamp it just so that it's not quite so dark, because I liked the light colors. Okay, so I'll just off stamp it, and then I wanted my butterfly as if he was coming into land here. There we go. So that one's all inked. Now I just need to get my flowers right here. And again, because it's quite dark, I want to off stamp them first. Because I wanted to keep quite the light, airy feeling. Okay, and we'll move that ink pad out of the way so I don't ruin that. And now I'm going to color them. Okay, I always make sure I finish my inking and my coloring before I assemble, so that if I do make a mistake, I can just get another piece of paper without ruining the whole card. So what we're using for coloring is our Stampin' blends. Okay, and I'm using the Daffodil Delight, the light one, and light Calypso Coral. And then they have this one, it's a color lifter, and that's what will give me some shading. Okay, so we'll start with the butterfly here. Just move those off to the side, because he's probably dry now. And we'll just color in the butterfly a bit here. Okay, now with the butterfly, I didn't want to lift any of it, but I will with these. So we'll just, and actually it doesn't matter because I'm going to lift the top one. Okay, so before I carry on, I want to take, because I want it while the ink is still wet, and we're going to start lifting some of this off. There we go. You can see that it just created a little bit different shade. And we'll do the same with this one. So it's almost like bleaching it a little bit. And it just takes a moment for it to start to show. But that's all I wanted, just to create the one in the background. Okay, and then we'll add the yellow in here. There we go. So all my coloring is done. So now I'm going to tape this one to the back of here. So, because I'm going to be taping all over anyways, because this is going to go on the back of my navy. Just line it up so that I get all the corresponding pieces lined up. There we have it. And now I'll just make sure I tape the back of this pretty good. And now this is going on this piece right here. So just line that all up. There we go. And now it's just adding everything to the card. So, now with these ones, I just need to make sure you can see which side is the longest side, so it goes straight up and down. Once you get one of those in place, then it's not so bad because you can see what size they are against each other. Tape these down. And there you have it. Now, the only thing we need to do is we're going to add this, just so it sits nicer, a piece of Whisper White to the back. So to make sure that you're taping the right spot, just look at your back of your card, and you're only going to tape kind of the L shape in there. And then just line it up with your Whisper White. And there we go. That card is complete and it stands. Okay, so we'll just move that stuff aside. And now we're going to start with our little treat box. Okay. The ribbon, and when you open it up, it's just a nice little treat box. And like I said, I've used this, the Night of Navy for the base, and then the Twinkle Twinkle designer paper, and that's what I used for the other one as well. Okay, so that was what we used for the card, which is that on the back. And okay, this is, I chose this as a nice bright. That's the other side. And then there's some other wonderful pieces in there as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is a piece of Night of Navy that is 7 3/4 by 8 1/2. Okay. And then we're going to need some designer paper, and the paper that I had is directional, so I just had to pay attention as to which way I wanted it cut. Okay, so I've got 2 2 1/4 by 3 3/4, and 1 2 by 3 3/4. So I just cut, because it was 12 by 12 paper, I just cut a 3 3/4 strip, and then cut off my 2 1/4, and then the 2 as well, and that way they were all facing the same direction. Okay, so what we need to do with this, I need to get my cutter. And put the arm out here. Now, don't know that you're going to be able to see all this, but I will try. So with the 8 1/2 side, what I want to do is score at the 2 1/4 mark on both ends. So just line it up, 2 1/4, and then flip it around to the 2 1/4 again. Okay, now on the other side, I want to score at the 1/2 inch, which I always find easier on this side. So I just have to make sure I turn my paper over. Okay, so I've scored at the 1/2 inch, the 3, and the 5 1/2. Okay, so you end up with this nice grid on here. Okay, so with the little 1/2 inch end facing towards you, we want to kind of make a T out of this. We're going to keep the top boxes, but the rest of this we're going to cut out. So, and keep these because you're going to need them, or at least part of it for the tag, but you never know when you need a little piece of scrap. And even though they've got some score lines on, they're good for punching out different things, or if you just need a little piece for a label. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to mark these. So, using a ruler, at the 1 3/8 mark here, we're going to mark it. So I actually use my paper here, which I put centimeters on top, but if I flip it over here, and just to show you, because that's part of what your paper's for. Okay, so at the 1 and, sorry, it's not 1 3/8, it's 1 1/8. And I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay. Flip this back around for you. And now you're going to take your bone folder and a ruler. And you're going to score from your mark down to the point. And you're going to do that both directions. On both ends. This will be your sides of your box. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to cut, leaving a little bit of a margin there on all four. But then we need to taper in these corners. So from this point out, just make a little taper. Almost like mitering your corners. Like so. Okay. So now what we want to do is fold it all. And just use your bone folder to crisp your edges. And then same with these. Fold them in nicely. Now, I found it easier to actually put your designer paper on before you assembled the box, just so you could get some good adherence. So we'll get our designer paper, okay? And you just have to pay attention as to which one is the narrower one, because that goes on the bottom here, and then the other two. So we'll just get some tape and tape these on. And then the final one. Okay, so now all we need to do is put some tear tape on these two edges. Okay, and unfortunately I ran out of tear tape, so I've got some other here. Oops. And then once you get it in place, take your bone folder and just burnish it. Use a tiny bit more on there, which I'll put on in a moment. Okay, heating it up makes it stick better. And make sure it has good adherence. There we go. I'm just going to get a tiny bit more for that one because I did it a little bit short. So I'll overlap it a bit. There we go. Burnish it on. So now you're just going to line it up along that edge. Okay, and I just used my bone folder and ran along the inside edge. Okay, and the same thing with this side. Oops. And rather than using the pointy end, I'm just using the other as a flat edge. Okay, and those stick in, and this comes around like so. Oops. It works better if we taper this in a bit. There we go. And there you have it. So now, just to decorate. So I chose, okay, these, you've got the bottom of the box there. Okay. So I've cut a piece, or I'm using one of my scraps that is cut at 1 1/2, and I took a Whisper White that's cut at 1, and I will stamp my Whisper White made of navy. And I just, because it's a treat box, I thought For You was appropriate. And I'm going to be trimming this down anyways. So we'll line it all up. With these photopolymers, I was able to put both stamps on there. There we go. And this stamp set is from the Jar of Love. So I used the For You and the little heart. Okay. So just move my ink pad out of the way so I don't get stuff on. Now I'm using this banner punch. There's 3 different sizes. So I've got my 1 inch, my 1 1/2, and 2 inch in there. And I'll run that in like so. Oh, now what I might not have done, that's going to be a bit too long, so we'll just trim that off a bit because I wanted it actually shorter. There we go. And we'll run my navy in there. And I'm going to tape it on first because this is just one of those scrap pieces that I just trimmed at one of the score lines. I'm going to tape this on and then I will trim it to size rather than worrying about there we go, and then I'll just trim it down. And that's what you end up. So I use dimensionals for this. Sorry, I'm getting everything all crooked here. I'll get my dimensionals. And, oops, really crooked today. And I just lined it up with the edge of my designer paper, like so, that I had a bit of a border on the sides. And now we're going to finish it with some ribbon. So I've used this sheer ribbon. Okay, it's a 1/8 in the Whisper White. Okay, so the easiest way to do a ribbon, to get a nice bow, I found, is once you tie it. That's how I taught my kids how to do bows when they were little. Let's make 2 little rabbit ears, and then through. And it just gives you a nice bow that you can adjust then. So, oops. And then we'll trim this side. And there we go. Our treat box is complete. Okay, so this card today, or this treat box today, and then our folding card. So I just wanted to remind you of the special that's happening in August. The bonus days, for every $60 that is spent in the month of August, you earn a $6 coupon to be spent in September. So if you have any questions about that, you can let me know. Otherwise, I please ask you to share my videos so that I can increase my audience. And I hope you had enjoyed this demonstration. Thank you, and you can visit my site here.